The Roundtable has only seen 2 iterations in its short history, yet it has proved to be one of the most hyped up tournaments Osu has ever seen. The mastermind behind it all was BTMC and his team, and they produced one of the best Osu tournament experiences in recent memory. But would you believe that the first rendition of the tournament was run with less than 1 month of planning? This was because the idea for this tournament didn't even exist until Ed heard Kreutz and Pishyfat talk about it while eating outside for dinner. In fact, they weren't even talking about Osu. They were talking about Super Smash Bros. This turned into a 3-week struggle where the BTMC team had to set up the entire tournament from top to bottom. The tournament was so rushed, it didn't even have a name yet when they started. Not only was this event being rushed to completion, it cost nearly $50,000. It was a huge gamble and crazy monetary commitment. But it worked. The concept of the tournament was something the Osu community had never seen, and it changed the Osu tournament scene forever. But what exactly needed to go right for this to happen? How did one random idea on a dinner night out turn into one of the most important Osu tournaments in the game's history? Everything starts with an idea, but it takes a special kind of appeal for those ideas to stand out and blossom into something special. And where else would we start but with the person that can turn the wildest ideas into a reality? If there's one thing that BTMC has above everyone else within the Osu community, it's that he has the power to pull the necessary strings to push Osu into a place no one could have possibly dreamed of. We've seen this with r/place, where the Osu community stole the spotlight and picked a fight with XQC and other popular streamers. We've seen this when he represented the Osu community at many large meetups and events. He could unite Osu with the mainstream media in a multitude of ways. However, one thing that Ed has never done out of all the crazy things he did was host his very own Osu tournament. It felt like it was only a matter of time before Ed would host an Osu tournament on his own accord eventually, but as he always does, he desired to push the Osu world into a place it's never reached, because he would hear an idea that added a deep flame to his endless passion. On one night, BTMC was out for dinner with some of his friends where he overheard Kreutz and Pishyfat having a conversation. You would think that because they are 2 of the most popular Osu mappers ever, they were probably talking about Osu, but no, they were talking about Super Smash Bros. More specifically, they were talking about Smash Summit. Smash Summit was always one of the most watched Smash tournaments in every iteration because of its unique format where its players were flown over if and only if they were invited to compete. Kreutz and Pishy immediately made the connection and suggested the idea that having an Osu tournament of a similar magnitude to the Beyond the Summit series would be an unreal experience. Conveniently, in that time, Ed overheard what they were saying and they filled him in. And in that moment, BTMC had a goal. He wanted to create the greatest Osu LAN tournament the game had ever seen and invite the absolute best players in the world to play in it. The premise was ingenious. The Osu community didn't have anything remotely close to this, and BTMC was the only one capable of making this happen. His team saw the potential and got to work. What could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. The first rendition of this tournament was set to take place in July 2022 and last for the weekend of July 8th through 10th. The problem was that it was already summer and they didn't even start working towards setting up the event. This wasn't because they procrastinated the deadlines or made any fatal mistakes. They were falling behind because the idea of this tournament literally didn't even exist yet. The BTMC team put in their efforts towards the tournament immediately after the idea was coined. The problem was, when the idea came into fruition, it was already the middle of June. They had 3 weeks to plan out, gather, and set up everything they needed to make this tournament happen. This is not even mentioning the fact that setting up this tournament, from buying the PCs to flying over and providing hotels for the players, cost a ton of money. According to Ed, the total cost of setting up the entire event was nearly $50,000. This added much more stress on an already tight deadline. This idea was so last minute, the tournament didn't even have a name yet. But eventually, they settled on a name that would soon forever hold its place within the Osu community, the Roundtable. And somehow, some way, they found a way to piece everything together and make it happen. And what followed was one of the best Osu tournament experiences in recent memory. The Roundtable was an Osu LAN tournament unlike any other. While LAN events are nothing new for the Osu community, the Roundtable broke down barriers that no other tournament could. For other Osu LAN events, participants are pretty much limited to those in the immediate surrounding area because the extreme commitment and impracticality of flying to a foreign area just to compete in an Osu tournament. But that changed with the Roundtable's inception. Several of the world's best players were personally invited and flown out by the BTMC team to compete and were complimented with crazy announcements for every wave of invitees. It was something that the Osu community had never experienced before, and as the tournament date approached, the collective hype was unparalleled to any other event. This led into the final announcement that truly sold everyone on its premise. Emmerich was being flown over from Australia to Los Angeles to compete in the Roundtable. If people didn't believe it before, this announcement truly showed that the Roundtable was something special, and everyone was dying to see what was in store. Soon, the day of the tournament was upon us, and despite the immense expectations everyone placed on the Roundtable, those expectations were absolutely blown out of the water. The tournament absolutely delivered in terms of entertainment and production value, which is something we come to expect with anything the BTMC team cooks up. But the one thing they didn't have control over was the outcome of the tournament matches. But like a fairy tale, the matches completely transcended what we all come to expect. The tournament was filled with twists and turns, and conveniently overlapped with Charlie's perfect math class to truly give one of, if not the greatest weekend in Osu history. CPMC ended a few hours before the final matches of the Roundtable, which cleared the stage for the Roundtable's conclusion, and what happened felt like something straight out of a movie. All three matches that decided the top 3 placing players went down to the tiebreaker, and we also got to see one of the greatest tiebreaker clinchers in Osu history that sent the Osu community into a craze. This was immediately followed up with one of the most intense grand finals in Osu history, which of course went down to the tiebreaker. Blood pressure medication sales might have spiked, but it was a magical weekend. And as the first rendition of the Roundtable came to an end, it all felt like it went away so fast. Thankfully, we were left with a promise, because Ed said that the Roundtable would be making a comeback. We knew that the Roundtable was returning, but we absolutely underestimated how big of a comeback this beloved tournament series would make. After the conclusion of the first Roundtable, the BTMC team got to work on making the return of the Roundtable even more special. When narrowing down their list of invitees, they realized they had 2 spots left over and figured instead of handpicking the last 2 invitees, they decided to have the entire Osu community compete for those last 2 invites, and the Roundtable 2 qualifier tournament was born. From January to March of 2023, the world's best Osu tournament players were able to compete and solidified their spot as one of the 16 invitees that will compete in the Roundtable. The winner of the base qualifier tournament would receive an invitation to the Roundtable 2, and those who placed 2nd through 6th would compete for the final invite in the last chance bracket. This was the first step of the Roundtable's expansion, and it was very effective. Matches received a concurrent audience peaking at a few thousand viewers, and everyone was treated to some intense moments as Malashevsky won his invite by taking 1st place in the qualifier tournament, and MCY4 won his invite by winning the last chance bracket. These matches were entertaining to watch, and they served as the perfect appetizer for the invitees that would be announced in the next month. The invitee waves marked perhaps the most ambitious expansion of the Roundtable because they drastically expanded the reach of their invites. In the first rendition of the Roundtable, the players that were invited only came from 3 unique countries: the United States, Canada, and Australia. The Roundtable 2, on the other hand, expanded their reach to 7 different countries. Not only that, some of the invites brought the entire Osu community down to their knees. Rafis is joining Malashevsky as the 2 players representing Poland, Emmerich is making his return once again from Australia, and Canada is bringing their own version of a Big 3 in Zudinator, UK, and Xylus. Although MCY4 couldn't make it because of visa issues, Asia is finally being represented in the Roundtable through Lolo234 getting an invite. Not to mention, Flying Tuna has returned from military service to compete in the Roundtable. Speaking of returns, Bubbleman has returned from his tournament hiatus to play, and Rariku came in clutch at the last minute to round off the roster to represent the land down under alongside Emrek. This roster is fully loaded with both the best talent in the game right now, as well as the most exciting narratives you could ask for. How will Flying Tuna and Bubbleman perform after the return after their breaks? What crazy moments does this tournament have in store for us this time? Will we get an Emrek versus Malashevsky grand finals like everyone anticipates, or will someone shock the world and create their own Cinderella story? And the crazy part is that as these questions are being answered, the pressure will be amplified because they're going to be competing for more than $10,000. We can form our predictions, but only time will tell what will happen on the weekend of July 7th through 9th. Everyone is looking forward to what will take place in front of everyone in sunny Los Angeles, California. And who knows, maybe the Roundtable will rival the Osu World Cup in terms of prestige for 1v1 Osu tournaments. But the one thing that can't be denied is that BTMC and his team created one of the best tournament series ever. And speaking of BTMC, he's had a long story as a player and content creator and built up an untouchable legacy. If you want to find out his full story and the impact he left in Osu, click the video on screen.